channel.
Darkim, I was excited to see Darkim. It's one of the guys. He returned to the essence, Supreme Divine. He used to tell me about Darkim stuff. He used to go to school a lot, and he would sit in some of Darkim classes that he holds at the school. So I knew the guy for a long time, actually, just by word of mouth, but I never met the guy in person. But I always hear good things about Darkim, because he's been around for a long time teaching at the school. Like, he's been around and he steadfast, so he's been a soldier for a while.
I could commend Darkim.
My Darkim, I like Christ. I'm subscribed to him, but I never watched his videos.
Did the father advocate universal beatdowns because you messed up on your lessons? Where did that culture creep up into our way of life?
The Bronx.
Darkim, I would have loved if Darkim would have came on. I would have sent him.
The God Darkim, I say to Darkim,
so I don't know who this Darkim cat is. So everyone, the deal out there, L7 Jewelry TV, it's the deal. You know what I'm saying? We got my little intro there. We rock back through that a couple of times before this is over. But yeah, you know, it's I did this a couple of days ago, that intro. But yeah, in the meantime, I have made some observations, you know, after these last couple of videos. After these last couple of videos, right, I made some observations. You know, and this characteristic is something that it exists in large part on the internet. Right? You know, most of the time you don't see this kind of thing in person. Right? But you know, as the result of disagreements, right? You know what I'm saying? Two people is building, right? And see, that's why I love the hot seat. That's why I love the hot seat, right? I love when the temperature gets turned up, because see, fire purifies things. You know, fire purifies things. And so sometimes, you know, when a person is first speaking to you, right, they're presenting a face that they want you to see. You know, and a lot of times this face that they're presenting is everything is peace. We're all brothers. Everybody's just trying to dialogue. But, you know, once it gets to the point, right? Once it gets to the point where, you know, they can no longer build, then comes the destruction part. You know, then it becomes, oh, see, you know, the people on your live stream is this or that. You know, then it becomes, oh, that's why the nation this or that. So we came to build or we came to destroy. See, that's the key right there. See, it's one thing, right? See, and then look, that's mathematical. At the end of the day, right, it's that's not wrong. See, when you can't add on to something, right? You can't build this up to be something positive for you, and it can't add on to your cipher, right? Can't add on to what you're building, then yeah, you need to destroy that, right? Before you make things complete, right? You need to get rid of whatever is not adding on. You see, the question becomes, right? When did you figure that out? Like, did a person figure that out in the midst of a conversation with me, right? Or did you already know this? See, because here's the jewel, right? See, when something happens to a person, right? The fact that they react, right? That means that tells you something about the other person. You know what I mean? Like somebody, a person is at peace, right? And they react on somebody for doing something. But see, how they react tells you a lot about the person. You see, look, we all have heard that story, right? Well, look, somebody bumped into somebody, or somebody stepped on somebody's sneakers, right? Or somebody was looking at somebody, right? And then we all know the range of reactions, right? Because we've had that look. Somebody was looking at somebody, right? And the person unalived them for looking at them. The same person could be looking at somebody else, right? They looking at the person, and the person sees them looking, and they just look away. See, now they both reacted to the person looking at them. You see how they reacted, that tells you about the person. So see, when you talking to somebody, right? And then as a result of this conversation, they go into a chamber and start talking about things, right? That's telling you something about them. See, like if they're even if they just using words, right? You know, uh, that tells you a perception that they already had in their head. Because see, how could they say something derogatory to you, right? Like if you don't know a person, right? What are you gonna say about them? Like can you insult somebody by calling them tall? I'm sure there's worlds, like if you're doing gymnastics or something, where being short is a great advantage. That's one thing. And so, look, we've seen over the last couple of live streams, right, that we had here, right, where that happened. See where that happened, and see this is why you can't be fooled. See how we look. You go on a page, right, and you see our universal flag, right? The universal flag was there, but then see the heat got turned up, right? The heat got turned up, and then all of a sudden, right? you know, we became, people who, you know, uh, the founding of our nation is satanic. See, first of all, right, A lot of this stuff is just gang mentality. A lot of these people, right? That's on the outskirts. They always have gang mentality. Where, you know, me and you having a conversation, but you got to make it about the whole neighborhood. See, I said something to you, and then all of a sudden, no, I just the whole neighborhood. See, that's just gang mentality. And see, look, I find it very interesting, right? That look, I'm always the person, right? That's I'm looked at as having gang mentality. But in fact, right? In fact, you see that. See, I don't call people. But see, this is what you have to pay attention to is that see, love is very much related to hate. Hate is not the opposite of love. The opposite of love is indifference. The opposite of any emotion, right, is indifference. See, because when you add emotion, any emotion to any emotion, all you get is more emotion. There's no negating factor there. So when you see these various people, see, you got to understand that, well, look, this is something that I came to see, right? Is that, see, like for instance, right? You got various people right now that want to debate me on various topics, right? Here's the thing. In order for you to comment on my channel, that means you got a channel. So why you can't make your video, right? Make videos on your page to teach what you want to teach. See, is people after people after people after people. See, I'm not forming a religion. And what that means, right, is that everybody ain't gotta agree with me. But see, not agreeing with me, right, and then coming to try to debate me, these two different things. These is two different things, right? And a lot of people don't realize what that is. See, a lot of people know how to debate, but they don't know how to build. See, you know how you can recognize some of these people? They're the people that's always complaining, right, about what the 85s don't want to learn. Yeah, see, I'm trying to teach, man. These 85, they all caught up in this thing over here, caught up. See, because you don't know how to teach. So you going over there to debate those people, right? You going over there to disrespect what they believe in, right? You going over there to disrespect people that they love, and then you wondering why they don't want this knowledge. See, a lot of things, man, you got to separate. See, there's a lot of people that they come into this with emotion. See, like you come into this already hating white people. And so when you hear the teaching, well, look, we not pro-black or anti-white, it's difficult for you to accept that. Again, we know it's a certain amount of, if you're just paying attention, right, to what the degree says, say, okay, this person is the devil, right, and they was created by destroying the black germ, then clearly this person is not my best friend. See, okay, that's something that it may take some time for you to come to the full understanding. But see, there's some people that never come to the full understanding, right, of their own emotional hate that they brought into it. See, that's why even when a topic comes up, if you notice, right, my thing is always, look, I'm just talking to us. The other people, they can do whatever they want to do. You see what this last set of videos, you know what that's about? It's about turning the light on. Where there's some people that see, this has been going on for a minute. So to that group of people, and see, not everybody is aware of the steps and stages, right, that bring us to here. And so that's all that happens is that, okay, we shine the light now. We shine the light now to where, okay, you heard what it's really hitting for. So now if you decide that that's for you, you decide that's for you. I'm not here to hold you back. I'm not here to tell you don't do that. If you want to go over there, in fact, I encourage you. See, because look, this thing, see, look, and that happens. I mean, look, this is real. See, there's a lot of dirty macking going on. See, when people start talking all this goddess stuff, right? And when you become a 5%er and you get that knowledge, then it's just okay for you to slap a beat. For you to kick a pregnant wisdom down the flight of, bro, that's just dirty mac. And see, look, if you understand, right? If you understand, see, bro, look, just because she don't deal with me, that don't mean she's gonna start liking you. And see, by that same token, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, just because I go, right, and talk bad about some other nation, that doesn't mean that people is going to internalize this knowledge. Just because you go and talk bad about Christianity and white Jesus and all of that, that does not mean that a person is going to come to true and living God. And so that's why debating is really no point in that. You either teaching or you're not. But I'm seeing, because look, I don't know if y'all been in it, because I love the conversation. I love the conversation. You know what I mean? Shout out to this brother, Supreme Scientist. He's another individual that, he kind of inspired this life. Right? So he comes on to the comment section of the last video to tell me, right, that there's a difference between writing history and making history. Granted, I just wasn't sure why, because it starts out like this, right? Where in 120 does it say history is written in advance? And so I point out that, all over 120, it tells you that things was predicted in the year one, right? Thousands of years before it was lived out. And so then he comes back and tells me, well, yeah, but that doesn't count because the 24th scientist has to approve it. Now, listen, I do understand the difference between writing history, right, and making history, right? I understand that there's a difference between leaders, right, that lead from the front of the pack and leaders that stand in the back and yell charge. I understand all that. But I also understand that when you moving on a large plane, right? On a plane of the entirety, the years of your life, right? Or when you're talking about a group of men, women, and children, right? Whether you're talking about a small group or you're talking about a large group, right? Communication is key to success. Like if we build in a house, right? We have to have a prediction here. We got a plan, right? That we need to follow a year to every mile. That we need to go according to this, right? Exactly how I say right here, or that wall is not going to meet that wall. The roof is going to fall. So now we write this history and then we show and prove our power to live it out. You see what I mean? Because you can give somebody the blueprint, right? You can give somebody the plan to build a house, but they're not a construction worker. They're not an electrician. They're not a plumber. They looking at this, they might could tell us a house, maybe. Because now, if you don't have that, how do you know what you're building out? How do you know what you're building? Unless you already predicted that in advance. Because see, if you don't know what you're building, right? If you don't know what you're building, right? Then what's the probability of you understanding what you build? Now somebody, look, understand and build in the 1 to 40, what's that degree? And so, we end up all over the place, man. Like I said, we end up in talking about the 23 chromosomes, right? And so he says that, the 23 chromosomes is not necessarily deterministic, right? Or he said 23 chromosomes, which is what you have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So that was another thing, but I didn't want to get into that. You have 46 chromosomes, but that's, sometimes, that wasn't the point, right? And so I asked him, I said, okay, so can you just grow to be 100 feet tall? Can you grow to be 100 feet tall no matter what your DNA says? Can the colored man be the original man no matter what the DNA says? Can somebody from Scandinavia, right? Can two people from Scandinavia, right, whose heritage is totally from Scandinavia, can they have a child that's nilotic? So then he changes it again to, uh, well, that's, being 100 feet tall is eliminated. That's eliminated because it's not inside the parameters. It's not inside the parameters of what the DNA said, right? And so then he says that these things that's outside the parameters of what the DNA says, right, don't determine what something is. See, this is why it's important to understand the science of predicting. Let's take it back to the example of the house, right? Okay, everything that's in this blueprint is based on everything that's going into the house, right? So these are the laws that the house is being constructed under. You understand what I mean? Meaning that if you got a wooden house, right, that's different characteristics, right? Is different laws than a brick house. And see the nature of the house, right, on into perpetuity is still going by those same laws. Like if you build a foundation a certain size, right, that's going to be the nature of where you can't put a structure there that's bigger than the foundation. These laws that's written in the beginning, right, is prescribing what happens. I understand all about the world of probability and possibility. But I also know the science of laws, right? And I know the science of, some laws can be broken temporarily. You know what I'm saying? Like it might be some poison, right? And you can eat it for a certain period of time, but eventually the poison is going to do its job, right? And you're going to feel the effect. You see, what made it stand out, you know, what made that stand out to me though is just that you know, see a lot of people, right, is they got this knowledge, right? But see, they haven't been sharpened with it. Like they just have the knowledge, right? But it's like a person that, you got a basketball, but you never been to the basketball court. You got a basketball, look, you got the whole Steph Curry, you got the Steph Curry jersey with the short pants. You know what I'm saying? You got the sweatsuit and everything that go over it. You ever seen somebody like that at the park? I've been seeing that since back in the day. Dude come out, look, he got the whole uniform on. Not just the jersey, not just the jersey, right? He got the whole uniform on like he Magic Johnson. Whole uniform on, all the paraphernalia like he's Michael Jordan. But see, he's never been out there on the court. You see what I'm saying? You might have did a little drills. You might have shot a little by yourself, but you never been sharpened by the best. And so see what happens. What happens out there, right? When you on point, right? What happens is you end up with these situations, right? With butter knives, right? Against blue steel. These are the situations that you find. But look, here's the thing, right? Don't get caught up. Because see, that's where some of this is coming from. Right? Some of this is coming from, it's like, all right, you getting caught up and then debating it. People say what they want to say, especially on this internet. This is not even the real world. So see, people say what they want to say. See, the problem comes in when I say something back. See, the problem comes in because I'm not a theoretical scientist. See, the problem comes in, right? Because I'm me and they're them. See, so you can have all the various theory that you want. See, that's the problem with religion. Yeah, you got all these fantastic principles, but don't nobody live them out. See, that's at the end of the day. Look, like I said, I understood the brother's point. There's a difference between writing history and making history. Look, there's a difference between making dinner and cooking dinner. See, cooking, that involves heat, but I could make a bowl of cereal. I could make a salad. I can make peanut butter and jelly. So yeah, we make history, right? But see, writing that history is a part of making it. You know why? Because we talking about a 25,000 year cycle, right? Now, after that 25,000 year cycle, if you get 100 years, right? If you live to be 100 years old, you is one of the best that did it. At least in this modern time. If you were to go back in the Bible time, then yeah, maybe you just have it. You behind the what's in it. You went out young at 100. If we talking about Bible time, but in this day and time right now, right? If you make it to 100, you the best that ever did it. So see, when all these things, right, look, when Allah predicted that history, right, when He said, "My best is yet to come," see, that had to be written in the minds and the hearts of the firstborn, or the brothers who was there in the '60s. See, all the things that Allah was doing, right? See, that's what the brothers did. They recorded that, right? And then they lived it out. And then what they did, they passed it on to us. And we recorded what happens. So now, just like with everything else, that gives us a direction. That gives us a direction We know we on the uptown side or the downtown side. So this is the question that I asked him, right? He hasn't answered me yet, right? How do you how did you make the history outside of that 100 years? Meaning in 1964, right, the nation was founded. Now look, I don't know who his brother is. We just on the internet, right? But I ain't never hear about him being there. So how you made that history? See, a lot of times, see, when you make up this mysterious character, the original man, the black man, see, you just replacing God with that. See, because now you give this mysterious original man all these powers. Now, see, let's break all that down. Let's talk about you. Let me see you do that. So you're going to tell me all of the stuff, the original man, this, that, and that. But how does that happen? What is the mechanism? See, everybody, and look, we say that, right? A lot of times we say, look, we take everything from knowledge to born. Yeah, but what about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? You can't just skip that. So you might start thinking that if you got exposed to this through the internet. And so you think you can skip all of these steps and stages that took everybody to get to where they are. Right? You hear people saying it, well, this is not the 70s and the 80s no more. We got the internet now. The internet is now, and you gotta get with the times of AI. And I understand that part too. Right? That if you don't change, you're gonna die. You see, when you change, that needs to be very specific. Because the vast majority of mutations are lethal. The vast majority of changes are lethal. See, that's where you get sayings like, be careful what you wish for. See, that's where you get sayings like, nah, see, it can always get worse. Because if you don't make the prediction, then change is what? Unpredictable. Unless you specify, this is the way I'm going to change things. And then here's the other thing, right? We go all the way down that road, but here's the thing. The live stream was about writing history. It was about writing something down that's going to go in your book of life. And the last time I checked, everything in the book of life was written by somebody. Shout out to Bernstein Sharif. But these is the various things. What I'm seeing that, yeah, see, 2026, look, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to people up front. Is that, yeah, 2026, we're going to have to be, we're going to have to, uh, keep our tools sharp. We're gonna have to keep our tools sharp. See, look, just to see, because here's the thing, right? Every predator is looking for the weak. They looking for the weak amongst the herd. See, that's the two people they looking for, right? They looking for whoever they see, whoever they see as the top cat, right? Top, whoever's the top here, right? We take him out, and everything is gonna fall apart. See, first of all, that'll never work with the 5%. They already tried that. If this ain't fall apart when a law got returned, what made you think you're going to debate me, right? And let's say you was the one. See, if you think that, you don't know 5% is that good. If I go on a debate and lose, the 5% ain't going to say, yeah, you know what? Let's turn to that nation who he lost the debate to. They're going to say, yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened with Dog, man. He must have went. I don't know what's up with him. He went up there off point. Ain't nobody going to change what they living out. So you might be able to get somebody that believe something to believe something else. You see, once you've been burned by fire, how is somebody going to tell you fire ain't hot? So if you really been living out this mathematics, right, the way we say we do, then what else is going to happen except, I mean, that don't even make sense. I was about to say, what else is going to happen except more mathematics? But yeah, that doesn't even. See, I had to stop myself. And this is why I wonder why other people, I be wondering if they don't have that process where they stop themselves before they say something stupid. But that's these are the only things that, you know, what is gonna stop you, right? Or what is gonna change you, right, from knowing what reality is. Now, all this other various hadith or whatever apocrypha that people want to put on cap, yeah, you know that you know that's subject to whatever evidence. But what new evidence is going to come about fire right now? That's going to mean that it don't burn. So this is why it's no point in debating with these people. The only point, you know what I'm saying, ever to speak to them is just to let them know that, look, I'm not in your target audience. But that's what a lot of this stuff is about. The different people that you're seeing now is they making it run at the title. You know what I'm saying? And in all reality, they're making the run at the title, right? Because we're not showing enough strength. See, like when you see the military, right? A lot of what they're doing is just to show strength. Like, see, you can have a town with thousands of people, right? 500 soldiers march in there in unison, and they see them on point, their uniforms and clean. See, you gotta observe that. Oh, you see, they come into that town with thousands of people, but them thousands of people don't get along. But see, when people when they march in, they see like, yo, these cats is, you know, they rifles ain't resting. That's gotta be observed. See what I mean? Just like look, depending on where you're from, right? When you from the hood, a lot of times, you go in an area, you go somewhere where it's mad clean. Like it ain't no dirt on the ground or nothing. And then it makes you a little bit apprehensive about just throwing a rapper like that. See, because the people who's there have demonstrated that they civilized by the way they keep their stuff. See, if we not demonstrating how civilized we are by the way we keep this nation, right, then yeah, people is gonna start thinking, yeah, we can come here and throw rappers. We come here and do whatever we want to do. We come to the rally, take over, talk all this stuff that the nation is not about. And see, it's not about demonstrating. People don't need to see what we're doing, but they see the fruit that it bears. See, right now, they seeing other people take what we got and get fruit from it. See, a lot of people think, if people see Jay Z with the flag, that's going to make them want to be 5%. No, it's going to make them want to be Jay Z. See, to the people who's Jay Z fans, all they want to know is how did that flag help them get that $1 billion? And that's the reality of the situation. Is that a lot of these various situations, right? Look, and this is one of the things that the cipher was good for, right? Is that back in the days, he used to say, look, you come to the cipher and we walk miles in the mine. You know what I'm saying? And then, once we come in tune from walking those miles in the mine, now we walk miles physically on the planet. See, that's why people gotta come outside. See, that's another thing that gets me, man. Come outside. See, I need to look. I need to see your eyeballs. You see my eyeballs. Like I need to look. Is you even black? What? Look, y'all know I'm not particularly racist, right? But look, I'm just saying, who am I talking to here? Come outside. Like, look, back in the days, look, we knew you, we knew what school you went to, what block you was from, what's your physical degree, your cousin, your little sister. We knew everything. Well, not everything, but I'm saying we discussing things. We know when we building with our life, and we know when we building with somebody who's unlike. And see, that's what you got to start determining up front. Look, we have to start determining that up front. See, because look, all we got to do, look, here's a question. Here's a question, right? In the mainstream media, at least, who who is the foremost expert on the 5%? That's a real question. We're not going to proceed until we get this question. Who is the foremost expert, right, in the mainstream media of the 5%? See who got something. Oh, Shalon came in. You still in? All right, guys. Sincere, Bar, Unc MD, CERN Love from the neighborhood. Missed us by that much. I haven't been around the hood in a minute. Son, you know, I was up. Let's be all over Bedford, all over there. I passed 143 a lot this summer. Did I tell you I saw a scrap up there. I think that's Cedric Avenue. Chattanooga was something. But we're waiting right now. I'm waiting for an answer, right? Does anybody know who is the foremost, well, I sit in the mainstream media, so that would be the said expert, right? Who is the said expert, right, on the 5%? Darkim? No. There's actually a foremost expert, and then there's another expert right behind him. L7, the wise man, Michael Muhammad Knight. Michael Muhammad Knight in the mainstream media is known as the foremost. Like, if you want to find something about the 5%, you give Michael Muhammad Knight a call. But see, here's the thing. Everything what he did, right? He was allowed to do that. And see, here's the thing. Once you allow that to happen, you can't just change it. You can't just change it back. You can't just say, oh yeah, well now we didn't, all the stuff he said we didn't mean that. He said, didn't he go crazy? I mean, the last I know, in like the last 2 years, he put out another book on it. I just know he's had a decent career, right, in writing books about us. And right behind him is Wakil. So see, this is what I'm saying. All of this stuff, we allowed that. We caused it almost, G. We can't see, look, you gotta look for yourself in every problem. If all that above is caused by the Son of Man, that means the good shit and the bad shit. That means the rain, hail, sleet, snow, and the earthquakes. To see if it's a problem, a lot of times, like, look, you got a problem, with this situation, you got a problem with that mountain being in your way. Okay, what you gonna do about the mountain? You gotta adjust your path or adjust your plan. Like if you plan on using dynamite and blowing it up, whatever it is, the solution, right? It's got to be something that you do. So see, I don't, that's what I'm saying. You arguing with this person for what? He said Sunyas. I think you meant Sunyas said he did not like Michael Muhammad. I think that's what you mean. You know, look, I can't say that I didn't like him. I just my spidey senses was just up. There was no particular thing, but he came around, and I'm hearing that he's writing this book, right? And everybody's like, yeah, go talk to him. And it was one of the things where I just looked at him and went the opposite way. And he was one of those people that I would see him in the rally, and other people was kicking it with him and everything, you know what I'm saying? But I never had no we never spoke. I never spoke to him. Then that he was just somebody that I saw, and I was kind of avoiding him. You know what I'm saying? There's lots of people like that over the years. That's like, I've seen him. It was like, this brother's not. He doesn't look like uh, he's all the way there. You know what I'm saying? He might be a couple of cards short. So generally speaking, yeah, you said you can't quote it off cap, but it's like the three. I think it must be a comment here that got left out. So wait, what you saying is like the third and fourth degree and the 1 and 14? Is that's another thing. See when see like when you around brothers that you've been around from junior high school and all of that, y'all can talk like that. Cause y'all on point with each other, y'all already know what y'all think. You know what I'm saying? But see, we on the internet right now where it's like you gotta use complete sentences. Like how they used to teach us in elementary school, where you gotta put the question inside the answer. You see what I mean? Otherwise, like if you say 196,940,000, 196,940,000 what? Bottles of beer on the wall? You understand what I'm saying? You gotta, you gotta, you gotta break all that down. But yeah, I never saw Sunni as around Michael Muhammad. No. What you mean right here? You said you can't quote it off cap. So what degrees? What degrees you want? See, I'm telling you another thing. That's why it's important to get 120 on cap, G. You know, a lot of people, you want to deal with all these complex things, you know what I mean? And you reading these college dissertations. Look, 120 lesson is like on a what, third grade reading level or something like that? Because you can knowledge all this other high power stuff, just get that on a cap. You see, one thing about it, right, is that, see, we like this. We don't have to, go back and get our book. We don't got to go back and get the Bible. You understand what I mean? That's one of the beauty parts of 120 lessons. Is that it gives you that whole story that you see in, what is this, 66 books in the Bible, in the King James Version at least. I think it's 72 in the Catholic Bible. Right? You know what I'm saying? The whole, how much ever pages of the Bhagavad Gita, right? How much ever pages of the Quran, et cetera, et cetera. See, you get that whole thing compact. Which word 20, like 8 pages, depending on what copy you got. 10 pages. You got the whole thing where you can draw it up and you can use the lessons that's in there, right? At the drop of a dime. See, a lot of things, right? They burdens when you don't know what they for, when you're not really using them. See, that's when 120 lessons is dead weight. You see, type 1 in the box, right? If you ever been in a situation, right, where, look, you realize that it's a very fortunate thing that you had the knowledge of self. Like having the knowledge of self in that situation right there saved me, you know what I'm saying, and or the people around me. See, if that's the case for you, then 120 lessons is not a burden. But see, if you're looking at it as just you have, you looking at it as something that you have to do to get through the pearly gates. That's something different. See, now it's a burden because you got all this other important stuff you want to do right here. But see, for me, I ain't going no place else. So whatever I'm doing here, right, it needs to be mathematical. See, in order to make this right here, right, some kind of paradise, then I need my knowledge and wisdom. You see what I mean? But if I'm just trying to fake the funk, what you can do in Christianity, right? You can be the most evil person on the planet, right, for your whole life, and then on your deathbed, right, with your dying breath, you can say, I accept Jesus Christ as my savior, and then you make it to heaven. So you can bullshit like that over there. So now you know you might have brought that mentality in here that you know you're just gonna wait until you're about to return to the essence, and then you're gonna study all your lessons, and then you make it to whatever universal hereafter. You know, I don't know. Is that that's not the way I was looking at this. But that's the real key to it. That's the key to all these people. Is keeping your sword sharp, right? So they know who's who. And keeping the lights on so you know who's who. Because at the end of the day, you know, this is the main key thing with all of them, right? See, they haven't built what we built. And see, people that don't understand building, they always think they can come up by destroying somebody else. Because they're not really thinking about elevation, they're thinking about being on top. To see, look, here's the thing about being on top, right? Here's the thing about being on top, right? So you can get on top like this, right? By rising up, or you can get on top by trying to do this to the other person. See, that's something different. See, that's why we can all have power, but we can't all have control. And so when you realize these are the people that you're dealing with, listen, it's really nothing. It's nothing to gain getting in the mud with them except getting your clothes dirty. See, look, like we learned the other day, right? We know who's God and the devil. So we understand what to build and we understand what to destroy. We don't have to debate because we don't sit around fasting and praying. See, fasting and praying is not all that's within my power. See, that's what I'm doing, right? To take the devil off my plate. Because I understand what to build and I understand what to destroy. But I think that's enough of that rant, you know. Because like I said, the message is for us, but look, it's also to you know, it's the comment section that's getting heated. But like I said, you gotta come outside. You gotta come outside, right? And we gotta see what you built. Come outside. Let's put all of this on the scale. See, like I said, you can't stand perpendicular to the internet. Where's the how you gonna be, how we see, how we see that you want to square like that. See, because a lot of this other stuff, that's for teenagers. We just say, yo, who had the most knowledge? You know what I mean? Yo, God, I know the one at 40. You just know the one at 14. That you did that with these teenagers. See, now it's about look, how you coming out with that science. Remember that you was telling me about you was about to, you predicted some history, you know what I mean, how that came out, how you used the mathematics to be successful at that, to add on. You know, God, yeah, this brother, he didn't know that degree, guy, yeah, I had to bomb him. Yeah, we should do that. 15, 16, 17 years old. You see, when we at this age, look, are you still talking about all the large accomplishments? Or you got some accomplishments now too to add to that? In order for us to, be who we are for eternity. But I don't know. We got anybody out there? Anybody out there got anything, for us to address? Because to tell the truth, I don't like spending that much time on this stuff. I don't like spending too much time on it, but just because see, I just those are just two situations, But I run into a couple of situations in 2025 where it's like, okay, 2026, right? We're gonna have to we're gonna have to turn up the intensity, right, of the examination. The point at which we allow somebody to qualify or disqualify themselves. You know how you're dealing with somebody, right? And you know that they don't know. Like sometimes I might ask somebody a question, right? And then I say, oh, wait a minute, what degree is you? And they be like, oh, well, nah, I don't know that degree. So then it's okay, right? We let that go, right? It's not time for you to show that you qualified to manifest that. See, now we at a point, and then see, and that's another thing, with qualifications, you can be qualified to drive a car, you're not qualified to drive an 18 wheeler necessarily per se, right? So, it's 2026 is shaping up a certain kind of way. You know, it's just it gets funny, right? It gets funny because people don't like when I demonstrate freedom. Meaning that people will say things to me or whatever, right? And then when I say something, it's like, yeah, that's it's a bigger deal or something, whatever. You know what I mean? Like now all of a sudden it's why this and why that. Kind of sat up there and said the founder of the nation is satanic, and then asked me why I'm trolling. you see, you see, I gotta stop taking the weight for some people. So you got the scale of justice, right? Somebody do something to you, and then you don't respond. You took the weight. And you know how sometimes that stuff does weigh on you, right? You be like, man, I should have let him get away with that. I should, I should. Yeah, the next time I see him, I'm gonna have to. So see, certain people, yeah, I gotta let them know. I gotta let them know up front, right? That you're not qualified. Look, at the very least, look to be in my midst. So you're not. See, a lot of people is not qualified. I'm telling you what it is, man. It's the content of their character. It's not the color of their skin. It's not where they from. It's not even what they believe. You see, like I said, we not religious. A person don't even have to know. A person could have never heard of the 5%. They could be from the backwoods of Southeast Asia, Papua New Guinea, whatever it is, right? To see if they righteous, they righteous. That's that's who makes it into the hereafter. The hereafter is for those that's just and true and righteous. It's not for people that agree with us. But like I said, we got any questions, man? I'll let y'all take over from here, man. Unless we get out of here. We get out of here if we done. But if we got any questions, you know what I'm saying? Now's the time. Supreme Man, I seen you just come in. Uh, Football coaches seem to be doing bad. you look, it might be room for you. It might be room for you up in the ranks. We need to let Michigan State know that that you just had an undefeated State. Not Michigan State. University of Michigan. We need to let the University of Michigan know that Supreme Man has achieved an undefeated season because it needs some coaching. You know, it's another coach I seen too, man. He's been in the news. I don't know what's going on. Supreme Man is the last righteous coach. He said, "What do you mean by the hereafter?" It means everything after now. It means from right here after, from now on. Truck and True. Wait, Truck and True, you the brother that worked in Rob Playman, right? I'm still trying to place you. I had thought about it. It was this kid, he was an older kid. I'm fairly sure his name was Rambo. He was a big guy. But I can't recall where he was from. But I recall him taking the train with us to Mount Vernon. I was wondering if maybe you could. It was a crew of people that used to roll with him. I was wondering if maybe you was one of them. But I have to know you. Hey, look, Son Love, he's almost like you, Son Love. So you was in the neighborhood. I had to see you. Oh, you got that brother? All right, but I'm still trying to place that other brother. All right, so I see you at the rally before that. Yeah, I seen you. You know how the rally be though. It be people like that you've been seeing them for the entire time that you had the knowledge, right? But you just never had a direct conversation with them. You know what I'm saying? But you've seen them and like somebody might be like, no, guys, we never kicked it like that. But yeah, I know, you know what I'm saying? I'm seeing the guy the whole time. So yeah, that looks like it right there. You know what I'm saying? We'll be back. We'll be back. You know what I'm saying? But we come back, right, with a conversation that'll probably be more education. You know what I mean? Some of this stuff is just about look. See, we can't really have, right? We can't really have weak links like that. You know what I'm saying? In order for us to really, build as a nation, right, we have to have some kind of protocol, right? You know what I'm saying? In order for people to get into Congress, you gotta have ID. They gotta know you. Not just anybody could just walk in Congress and go up to the podium and start giving the speech. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things. See, a lot of times why I point that out is because I don't like when, when we execute something as a nation, right? And it's looked at like, oh, that's just some funny stuff that they doing. Like that's not general protocol, right, for any nation. You know, all of us, well, in New York, you gotta have ID. And you can be arrested just for not having ID. Whether you agree with that or not, right? I'm just saying that is this is what we gotta start realizing. And we have to start realizing that look, if we don't use it, we're gonna lose it. You know what I'm saying? Look, everybody don't have time for everything. You know what I mean? The first law is self-preservation, right? You gotta save yourself before you can save others. You see, if you're counting on everybody else holding this up, it's gonna fall. You see, there's no limit to that. We all sit back thinking the original man, this mysterious original man with the magical powers is going to handle it. It's not going to get done. So that's why, you know, certain ones like this right here is this is, to me, it's necessary, right? Because we need to understand how these people is trying to interact with us. See, these people is trying to interact with us, man, because we speak life. See, when you think you bombing them, all they doing is absorbing that. All they doing is absorbing that. See, when you speak life, right, to people that grow and develop, right, and you see the growth and development, right, you get life back from that. You know what I'm saying? When you build with somebody, right, when they on zero, and then one day, you know what I'm saying, they go do their thing, whatever, and then they on 10. And they come back and say, "Here, God, you know what I mean? You deal in equality with you, God. Yo, God, you wanna be down with this right here?" See, that's life. But when you speak with these people, you're gonna do nothing but feel tired. After you finish talking to them, you're gonna feel tired, right? And you're gonna be thinking about all the shit you could have did with that time. That's hell. To see with a lot of this, man, what you gotta understand. See, look, I know you like some people, but they not this. And so, if some people look, whatever they curious about, whatever it is they want to see, for me, I love it. Meaning, I love for there to be something here, right? Where it's like, okay, the people that's not qualified, that's your room over there. We ain't got to figure out what to do with you. We ain't got to, you know, you got, your place over there where you going, those are the people that, y'all have the same mindset and worldview. But I'm not, you know, it's like, if somebody else got a way of life, right? I don't really feel like being dissatisfied about their way of life. You see, there's lots of things that I don't approve of, right? I don't condone that, right? I don't go around that. I don't want that coming around me, right? But I'm not dissatisfied about whatever it is that they do. And that's for them to be satisfied or dissatisfied with. You know what I'm saying? Like when you see Christians, I know brothers like that, right? You see Christians worshiping their Christianity and you get mad. If you get mad when you see people going to church on Sunday, then why are you upset? Why are you dissatisfied with gay life? I don't. So by that same token, that's what I'm saying. I live around all these other people, dude. Christians, Muslims, Jehovah Witness. You got Mormons be walking through the neighborhood. You got a Scientology building down on the other side of 125th Street now. You got Egyptologists, Hebrew Israel. I'll be around all kind of people. This particular group of people, right? This is what I'm saying. They ain't supposed to get us hype. All we supposed to do is examine the situation and shine the light where it's darkness. See? All we got to do is be the real deal. See, because the real deal, look, back in the day, that was one of the things, original, that's another meaning of it. Authentic. That's an original. That's not a facsimile thereof. That is an original. They see like Da Vinci and Picasso, you got other people that have drawn a close facsimile, right, to their great paintings. You see, no, this is an original Michelangelo right here. You see, when people see the original, they see the authentic, right? Then the fake is it has to fade away. So just remember, lights on, swords up, you know what I'm saying? And keep the grass low. See, these are the things that we should get to keep the grass low. You see what I mean? So you can see this kind of thing. And see, that's the one thing that means is that see, look, we got the hot seat on constantly. So as soon as the snake come in the yard, you already know who he is. Do the each one, teach one, hit the like button. In the meantime, between time, I'm gonna sign off and say peace.